So how many of you are still using these gauges and saying 29.9, that's a pretty good vacuum? So let's see if that's good. All right, we got a new toy. Ty mentioned a professor was using a glass jar as a vacuum pump, and it imploded and hurt a few students. So I value his opinion and his expertise very much. So I do want to caution anyone that wants to make their own. There is always potential for danger. It can be some powerful stuff, as we have seen. So this is the 3-gallon, which I like much better. This was my homemade one, and you can see I still had to try to seal up leaks as I was playing with it. So any little nicks or scratches can greatly weaken this and cause potential danger. So this one was a little pricier, but I splurged for your guys' sakes. You can see me trying to fit my hand in this jar was no good. I can definitely reach inside the new one. Well, thank you, Ty, for keeping us all safe and still letting us have fun. So I assume this is just going to sit on there and self-seal. And of course, once you're sealing it, you're not going to lift it up off there while it's under vacuum. We might read the warning label later. So we have a filter, we can shut off the vacuum. We have an oil-filled gauge, I like that. And they give us a little hose. This feels like a sticky pad, kinda, so a lot of grip. I'm not gonna worry with that right now. We are gonna keep that in case we have it on a slippery surface another time. So I'm going to hook my orange hose here on my low side. And we'll hook this up to our pump. Now, I have this. I'm sure a lot of people are going to say this is a piece of junk. I have not used this for many, many years. I don't know if it still works. I'm going to connect it here so we can see if it works. We got our gas off, got that lined up. Let's see. And again, I don't know how well this is working. We have been on a vacuum for a little while. I'm gonna go ahead and shut it down here. And I don't have any way. I am going to switch these two. That way I can keep the vacuum on and just shut off this one. That way I can leave this one under vacuum. Did not think that through very well, did I? That's all right, we can correct. So let me open this back up, see what our micron gauge says that we're at here. I don't think there's any doubts that we're in the micron range. For those that have this gauge, you see that. We can see that here on this gauge, and we are indeed in the micron range. So it does make a pretty tight seal. If I just try to lift the jar up, it's not going to come up. One thing that might be hard to wrap your head around is the vacuum is not what's holding this together. The vacuum is not a force. The vacuum just merely removed what air was in here. We still have air and pressure all around it. So the atmosphere is pushing down on this lid and at the same time pushing up on the bottom. And the pressure pushing those two together is what's keeping this together. So if we let this pressure off, I like how that little throttles down. Filters the air coming back in. Alright, so our microns left really quick. We saw the needle come around, and of course the gauge matched. So who knows why we're pulling a vacuum in the first place? For one, yes, it is to remove the air, but also we want to remove any moisture as well. Observe the water. So for anyone that's pulling vacuum for an hour or for 2 cigarettes or whatever you use for your gauge of how long to pull a vacuum, if you're not using a micron gauge, you could still have water in your system. And how are you going to tell? Because that needle pointing there is useless. Look at how these numbers are changing. That is all that water still turning into vapor. So this number is continually going up. And if you look, the needle's not moving. So I'm going to let air pressure back in here. You see the glass instantly fogged up. The glass may have chilled a little bit. It feels chilly, but it was just water out of the faucet, so I don't know for sure. Should have took a temperature reading. Let's see if this works. It's showing 61 degree water here, and then I just went to the faucet and got some more here. Yeah, 66 degrees straight out of the faucet. And after vacuuming and boiling off, it came down to 61. So for it to boil, it was robbing heat from the water around it to boil out. More interesting stuff. Do you use a micron gauge when you pull a vacuum on your system? Do you understand the importance of why we use micron gauges? And there's several different options out there. So you can't probably see here, but in this green area, so here I have enlarged it for you. That is inches of mercury. A micron is 1/1000th of an inch of mercury. Can you tell me which one of those dashes is 1/1000th? It doesn't exist. So when we pull down to 500 microns, we are pulling it down to 29.9 inches of mercury into a vacuum. A perfect vacuum of 0 would be 29.92. Now, as we saw in the video, the water started cooling down, so we would have need to have gotten to an even lower vacuum in order to make it start boiling off again. 29 inches of mercury is going to boil off at 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Once we pull it to 29.9 inches of mercury, which is 500 microns, is going to boil off at negative 12 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's why that magic 500 number exists. Once we get there, we know that any moisture in the system has been boiled off into a gas. Now, why do we want the moisture gone from the system? That moisture is going to react with the oils in the system and the refrigerant, and it's going to create acids. And those acids are going to eat away at the compressor windings. And of course, we want all the air and nitrogen out of the system because it is a non-condensable. It's going to make our discharge pressures run higher. It's going to reduce our cooling capacity, our efficiency, and it's going to really mess with you trying to troubleshoot the system because you're not going to get an accurate subcooling or superheat. Most of our compressors today use PLE oil. That is a very hygroscopic oil, which means it absorbs moisture. So making sure we remove all the moisture from the system helps keep that oil intact. Guys, if you're not using a micron gauge while you're pulling a vacuum, you're just guessing. You're doing yourself, your company, and your customer a disservice if you're not. I really like having a definitive number to know I'm doing something right. And I'll admit, before I learned why we actually do this, I didn't care. I was a young tech in the field. All of my journeymen just pulled a vacuum 30 minutes to an hour, let her go. However long lunch was, that's good. But once I learned why, I wasn't going back. So hopefully if you weren't aware, now you are. You can get yourself a standalone. I know a lot of people don't like the micron gauges inside of a manifold, but I'll take it over nothing. So if you guys didn't learn something, hopefully you're at least entertained. So guys, thank you for all the support, the views, the comments. I really appreciate each and every one of you. We'll catch you on the next one.